Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I do want to apologize if you hear that humming in the background. Again, that is my AC. Hopefully summer will be over soon, we can get into fall, and I won't have that obnoxious noise in the background anymore. That would be lovely. Anyhow, today I am stoked because I am finally getting around to my review of Black Mouth by Ronald Malfi. I know that I talked about this in my July monthly wrap-up and was like, oh, it'll probably be the next video I upload, and then my sister came to town and I had a bunch of work stuff and I just didn't have time to film it. So here it is. For those of you guys who do not know, Ronald Malfi is one of my favorite horror authors. I love his work. Everything I've read from him I've really enjoyed, and several of his books have really blown me away and really impressed me, and this is one of them. I will be just very blunt right off the bat. This is, I think, the best book I've read this year, and this was a full-on 5-star review. I absolutely adored it. I'm gonna read the back of the book for y'all. For nearly 2 decades, Jamie Warren has been running from darkness. He's haunted by a traumatic childhood and the guilt at having disappeared from his disabled brother's life. Then a series of unusual events reunites him with his estranged brother and their childhood friends, and none of them can deny the sense of fate that has seemingly drawn them back together. Nor can they deny the memories of that summer, so long ago, the strange magic taught to them by an even stranger man, and the terrible act that has followed them all into adulthood. In the light of new danger, they must confront their past by facing their futures and hunting down a man who may very well be a monster. I'm going to leave it at that because I do think that this is a great book to just kind of go into knowing very little about. This is a coming-of-age horror story. This is done in a not-so-traditional coming-of-age horror story way, which I actually really liked. This is for fans of It, fans of December Park, which is also by Ronald Malfi, fans of Malignant Summer. But what I really liked about this is, unlike most coming-of-age horror stories where we really focus on the children, and like their loss of innocence or whatever horrifying metaphor they use for that, this one focuses on the aftermath of that. So we get most of the story told from the adult perspectives of our 4 main characters, well, sort of 3. We don't really get a lot from Jamie's brother. He is disabled, but he is a very pivotal and important character, but we don't really see too much into his past and psyche because of that. But we do see a lot with Jamie and then Mia and Clay. And I really liked how we get a full perspective on how something traumatic happened to these kids as children, and we initially see them as adults. One of my favorite things about it is the juxtaposition between the children and the adults, even though I've always loved the child side of that story more. But in this one, I really liked the way Malfi framed it, because the things that happen to them as kids really only takes place over like a 2 or 3 week period of time, which is not enough to fill up a whole book. I would say maybe 75 pages of the book are dedicated to their childhood, and it is told interspersed as flashbacks throughout the novel. And I really liked that, and I really liked how everything kind of unraveled as you got deeper and deeper into the story. I thought this book was creepy, eerie, had a lot of very disturbing undertones to it, a lot of really upsetting and disturbing subplots to it. Again, one of my favorite things about coming-of-age horror is that a lot of times the humans and the adults and the bullies in coming-of-age horror are a lot scarier than the supernatural element in the story, and that is primarily because these are things that do exist in reality, and I think Malfi does an amazing job of balancing both a realistic horror as well as a supernatural horror. I will say this book does have cosmic horror elements, very similar to Malignant Summer by Tim Meyer, where the cosmic horror is kind of alluded to throughout, so it doesn't kind of come out of nowhere at the end, which is the type of cosmic horror that I prefer. I do not like to have the existential dread and the out of absolute thin air comes this crazy horrific sky monster or demon or whatnot that completely unravels space-time and everything that we know. I think that's a cop-out. So I really like how Malfi does this. I like that there is both an element of realism and supernatural potential to our quote-unquote villain. Again, I like that there are layered villains in this novel, much like in It. Of course, you have Pennywise the Clown, you have Henry Bowers, and then my personal most favorite most disturbing, most evil villain that I think Stephen King has ever written, Patrick Hockstetter. So you do have these layers of villains within Black Mouth that makes it really, really interesting. I do like the reveals. I liked a lot of the twists and turns in this, and this was just a really, really well-paced book. It's a little over 400 pages. It's about 420 pages. I read this in 4 days. Probably could have read it in 2 if I didn't have to go to work throughout it, because I really didn't want to put this down. I do love that all of our characters are very, very, very flawed individuals. I think you get so much more substance out of a novel when you can read characters that are not the best people. Jamie Warren might be our protagonist, but he is definitely not a hero, and I think that's really, really important going into this. I really love how Ronald Malfi handles topics like alcoholism. This is something that you see a lot in Stephen King and in a lot of horror novels, but I think the way that Malfi handled it was a little bit of a different perspective. It really isn't the story of like how they got back on track. It's really the story of what fully unraveled them to the edge. And I thought it was a really interesting perspective on that topic. I really liked how you have 3 kids, Clay, Jamie, and Mia, all kind of under similar circumstances with similar trauma, grow up to be vastly different humans, and I really like seeing how the 3 of them channel that trauma into their adulthood. You kind of have Clay, who is more of like the beacon, using his trauma as a strength. You have Mia, who is using it as art, and then you have Jamie, who is still unsure of what to do with it. I think those are all 3 very realistic responses to what these kids went through, and I really, really enjoyed that. Again, I adore Ronald Malfi. He is one of my top favorite authors. Come With Me blew me away. December Park is one of my favorite novels, and this is absolutely up there. I do think it lives up to all of the hype that people have been saying about it. And I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. I really, really, really don't want to give too much away on this book, because I do think that it is worth just diving into and experiencing it on your own. But I will say that it felt very original for being a kind of trope that I feel like is done a lot. And saying that as well, Ronald Malfi has already written a coming-of-age horror story. Again, December Park, told through the perspective of children. Again, this one is told through the perspective primarily of adults. And I thought that when I first heard this book, I was like, wow, I'm going to be interested to see how he can do something and make it as good as December Park, which I think is already absolutely perfect. And he came out with a completely different style of coming-of-age horror, and I think really, really nailed it. If I have to get really nitpicky, I think the book's climax was a little short-lived. There's something that a lot of new horror authors are doing where they really, really build up the final action sequence, and then I feel like it happens really quickly and then it's just over. And this one I wouldn't say it happens super quickly and then it's over. There's definitely like a lot to it, but I really wish that maybe like 10-20 pages more to really flesh out what is happening would have added just a little bit more depth to this climactic moment towards the end. I really would have liked to know more about the magician, who he is, where he comes from, why he is. That being said, you do get a whole lot of past on the magician, which I thought was really, really well done. And I wasn't expecting that, and I really, really liked how his whole story unfurled before the reader, and I really liked his entire origin. I thought that was great. And there were, I believe his name was Wayne. There were just a ton. Yeah, Wayne Lee Stull. There were just a bunch of other characters, I think, that were added to the novel that were kind of outside of the realm of our 4 main characters, and I think the way that they were added and what their experiences added to the overall story was a truly, like, interesting concept. All of these characters are really well fleshed out. Like, I really feel like I knew who they were, and I feel like Malfi was able to do that from the very, very beginning of their stories. Like from the moment you meet them, you kind of can figure out who these people are. Another really interesting thing that I wanted to play upon is I'm actually kind of happy that the bully motif that you see in so much coming of age horror is sort of absent in this. Obviously it's not, obviously there's bullying in this book towards children. That is something that I feel like happens in a lot of coming of age horror. but it is not the motif that we see. It is not the Jewel of Malignant Summer. It is not the Henry Bowers of It, which I was very pleased with, because I really wanted to see how Malfi could take this trope, and especially something he's already done and done very, very well, and make it new. And I think he really absolutely achieved that with this, and I highly, highly recommend y'all check this out. I absolutely adored this book. So yeah, 5-star read. Right now I really do think it's the best thing that I've read all year. And like, reviewing this has actually been really difficult because I just want to talk about so many nitpicky decisions and things in this novel, but it will just give so much stuff away. So I'm gonna just leave it at 5-star review. Best thing I've read all year. I'm so thrilled with this. Ronald Malfi always blows me away. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays, and if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah.